And today, police and residents on Kodiak Island say they weathered the storm seemingly without a scratch. Reporter Kyle Hopkins joins us now from this island community. Kyle.
Yeah, Maria, well, a 7.9 magnitude earthquake is going to get anyone's attention. And even when it's 180 miles away from Kodiak, as this one was, an advisory went out. It told people that if they were staying in low-lying areas just like this one, that they needed to get uphill. They needed to get to higher ground. And that's exactly what happened. And those folks were relieved to find out a few hours later that those big waves from the big quake never really came.
It appears that everything went fairly smoothly during the evacuation. What are you hearing?
Right, that's what people in Kodiak are saying. I think there's a sense of relief. I think people feel like even though the roads were crowded, even though there's this sense of urgency to get to someplace safe, that was done in kind of an orderly fashion, and that there were no real mishaps, no car accidents, no acts of road rage. Everyone kind of was urgent but patient and fairly respectful. That's what we're hearing.
So we're also hearing across the state very minor damage, maybe some items falling off the shelves. What are you hearing from folks in Kodiak?
Well, you know, despite the size of that earthquake, that's not really something that folks in Kodiak are talking about. They didn't wake up to find, you know, their picture frames on the floor, that kind of thing. There were maybe some new cracks in the old fire hall. Maybe those are new, maybe they aren't, but pretty minimal damage is being described, at least so far. If there's major damage, it hasn't really been discovered yet.
Well, very good. Good news across the state, Kyle. We're so glad that all the Alaskans are okay.
Kyle joins us now live from that area to show us what was found today. Kyle?
Yeah, Mike, you know, I came to these woods today expecting to interview a witness about a body or bodies that he had seen, but that he said had vanished in the last few days. Instead, we walked just a short distance into these woods among the homeless camps, and almost immediately we came across a skull, an arm, what were clearly human remains. And I need to warn you that some of the images in our story will be graphic.
I kind of didn't really tell anybody, really. I went back and just told the people that were kind of down here that are, actually it's right back here.
Warren Hamilton says he had been staying with his brother here in Mountain View when he came across a shocking discovery.
Her face looked melted kind of too, and her clothes seemed like they were like, I don't know, kind of melted really tight.
The body of what appeared to be a woman. It looked to him as if it had been burned among a cluster of homeless camps.
You can see there's been movements, people have had camps and broke them down. You can see where places have been laid out for living.
This was more than a week ago. After that first discovery, Hamilton says he returned and saw a different body, that of what appeared to be a man.
No, I knew they were not the same body. This one was, she was probably about 5'6" or so. Seemed to be about like 100 in middle. Seemed like light brown skin.
Hamilton says the other body was taller, possibly male.
He had a hoodie and a pair of pants.
That is the body he sent me photos of in an email. He'd said the body was now gone, but that he wanted it investigated. That was on Friday. We emailed Anchorage police spokespeople after hours to ask if they were looking into reports of a corpse or bodies in the woods. We received no reply from APD. Today, I visited the area with Hamilton to hear what he had to say. Our crew thought that any body, had it been there, was now gone. We were wrong. Whoa.
That was the staff that was going through the midsection. There's a skull right there. I mean, it looked like it was ritual. It looked ritualistic with the way that stick was sticking right out of his abdomen.
Do you have any idea who that might be?
No.
Did anyone you talked to seem to know who it might be?
No.
If you're wondering why Hamilton didn't call 911 right away days earlier.
One of the questions we're going to ask is, why didn't you call us first? You know, it's great to call somebody, but the first call should have been to us.
I asked him.
I did try, actually. I tried to call the detective line, and I got an answer machine. And I was kind of like, what the heck is this about? I mean,
okay.
So, you know, and I tried to write an email. I think I failed with their email, so I finally wrote you the email. And I figured you would get a hold of them.
I returned to our car and immediately called 911.
It's human remains. It's a skull. It disconnected from a torso, an arm. It looks like it's been there quite a while.
Police arrived and Hamilton led them to the body.
They're going to start to collect evidence and then start to try to piece together what exactly happened, how long this person had been there.
Hamilton says he wants those answers too.
I kind of wanted it to, somebody to look at it like it was, somebody that had a life, somebody that was alive at one time.
Now, that's what we know so far. That story references 2 bodies. I should really make it clear that we're only aware of 1 body that has been found in these woods. Mr. Hamilton believes there were 2. We don't know that. Police have not confirmed that. I should also note that among the questions about why Mr. Hamilton didn't call 911 earlier, I had wondered if maybe it had to do with an outstanding warrant that he had dated back to an apparently unrelated case in 2013, meaning that if he interacted with police, he would be arrested on that warrant. And that's what happened today. He talked with police about what he had found, and he was arrested on that warrant, according to APD. So that's what we know so far, and we'll be updating the story as we learn more.
Kyle?
Well, thanks, Mike. I've heard from many Acreage residents who have gone through a similar experience, waking up to find their car missing. In our case, we knew we'd need to be very proactive if we were going to find it within that critical first window of 48 hours.
For more than 30 hours, I'd been desperately searching for my family car. Following every possible lead I received from online forums like Stolen in Alaska and Scanner Joe. I was driving around town in a borrowed car, my family's concern growing.
Then it got spooky, because then Kyle's, the whole time we kind of talked to each other and text and stuff, and we don't go long, naturally without talking to each other for very long, and he, went for 2 hours without speaking to me.
And finally, a real-time tip led me to Midtown, where I witnessed the car being driven out of a fast food parking lot by total strangers. I followed right behind it, even taking pictures when the car stopped. Unknown items being loaded into the hatchback.
Anchorage Police Dispatch.
I told the 911 operator my specific location.
The police just arrived and have surrounded the car with guns drawn, and they have some guys on their knees.
Turn away from us! Turn away from us!
Swarming the car and removing the occupants.
I was at a kid's birthday party with my sister-in-law, Kyle's sister, and she and I kept getting Facebook alerts, and we're like, I think he found the car. And then I was like, that's my car right there.
Did you have another one stolen?
It's full of stuff. There's just a bunch of stuff that, you have to assume is stolen goods.
The purpose of the arraignment is to notify you of whatever charges have brought you into custody.
The driver turned out to be 20-year-old Alexis Stewart. No criminal record. Now charged with drug possession and vehicle theft.
Bail had previously been set at $1,000 cash or corporate. Does anyone wish to be heard on that?
But under the 2016 crime bill known as Senate Bill 91, Stewart won't face any upfront jail time. If convicted, any time behind bars would likely be suspended. A reality that's made the law among the most controversial in recent history.
I kind of felt bad and angry at the same time.
Anything else happened? Did you guys go anywhere?
As for the other occupants in the car, no arrests, no citations. Seemingly free to leave after a few questions from police. Before leaving on foot, one of the men even tried to take my headphones with him. A search of court records shows he does have a record for assault, trespassing, violating a restraining order, all taking place over the past 2 years.
The next step is at some point they'll take my car off of stolen status, and all that stuff that's in the back, they'll determine what's mine and what's not.
Like these cookies, this peanut butter, not mine. Neither are all these needles. Bolt cutters. A credit card and ID belonging to my neighbor who was burglarized the same night. And even a face mask. A full 36 hours after it went missing, we finally had our car back. The first stop, the car wash. And we were back to our family routine by Monday morning. But the last 48 hours wouldn't soon be forgotten.
Some of my things got stolen because they were in the car.
Like what?
A pencil that had paw prints on it, and a lot of my toys.
Poppy, do you still want to punch the person who broke into the car?
Yes.
Poppy's the enforcer of the house, and so she was like, if I find whoever stole that car, I will punch them in the face. But we don't punch people.
Ours was just one story one of 60 vehicles reported stolen in Anchorage that week alone. It was also a lesson in how during the current car theft epidemic, a community can come together to crack a case.
Really went out of their way for us, and I loved kind of the idea of everyone sticking together and we're all in this, we're going to fix this whole thing together.
Our family is grateful for the police officers who answered our 911 call and ultimately made an arrest. They collected all the evidence and handed us our keys back right then and there. It was a good outcome in our case, and police say that more than 90% of the vehicles that are stolen are later recovered. Also, as you saw, all the passengers were let go that day when our car was found. But if it had happened today, that would not have been the case. The Anchorage Assembly last night voted to make it easier for prosecutors to charge people under a law that says it's illegal to ride in a stolen car.
So Kyle, in this case, Good Samaritans helped you find the car. You followed the perpetrators. So, okay, now what did police say about the dangers of getting involved?
Well, I guess I went right up to the line. That's something that Channel 2 News has been covering at length in recent months. It's a topic of conversation for sure, both with APD and crime victims who really want to do whatever they can to fight back, to get their things back during this epidemic in our city. But where is the line? How far can you go? That's what we'll be examining in part 3 of our series tomorrow at 6, when several other victims will share their stories.
Reporter Kyle Hopkins joins us in Kodiak, where he's been talking to law enforcement and residents about why for many it was a long, frightening night.
Yeah, Mike and Rebecca, this is a tough town. When news came in that it was time to head for the hills, that's exactly what people did, and they did so apparently without a lot of fuss.
There's nothing like breakfast at a sleepy diner. After a restless night. When, for the first time that many can remember,
we sound the alarm right from our dispatch right behind us here.
A late-night evacuation sent this island community racing for higher ground.
This was in the gym. You can see quite a few people just sitting, talking, a few people sleeping. Some kids playing on the basketball court.
The earthquake, magnitude 8.0, 180 miles from this fishing town, prompted officials to warn of a potential tsunami. It wouldn't have been the first time. Waves decimated homes on the island in 1964.
There used to be a police station attached here years ago. That's where the 64 wave hit.
This time, nearly all of the island's 18 police officers came to work in the middle of the night.
Have them start going into those areas, driving around and announcing over their PA system that this isn't a drill, this is a tsunami warning, you need to head to higher ground.
Thousands of people sheltered, many in a local high school.
You know, it was amazing. They were just kind of sitting and talking, holding their kids, holding their dogs.
But the devastating waves never came.
We might have got about a half a foot of tsunami event. We had some harbor employees who had eyes on the water, and they were reporting some subtle tide changes from a few inches to 3 feet back and forth.
The tsunami danger had passed by shortly after 4 a.m., and Kodiak had passed a test.
No road rage, no burglaries, no chaos, in facing what could be just catastrophe, because a lot of people were here in 1964 and they remember that very vividly. And I got to hand it to our community for the way they responded to this in the middle of the night. They seemed to, take it seriously, yet they had a lot of patience.
Now, it was interesting to see how that 1964 earthquake and tsunami really plays a role in how this community reacts to and thinks about tsunamis and the threats. They certainly do take it seriously. But again, in this case, it luckily turned out to be kind of a trial run. It was an opportunity for the police department, for the fire department, for residents to learn how they handle an evacuation, and they found that in most cases it went very smoothly.
Representative Dean Westlake is currently under investigation by the Legislative Affairs Agency after legislative aide accused him of making unwanted sexual advances and touching her at work-related events earlier this year. Today, Westlake admitted to Channel 2 that he has been previously investigated for sexual harassment, but says that took place before he took office and says he never intended to offend anyone. Anna Sattler describes an inappropriate encounter with Westlake that she says took place about 3 years ago at the Denina Convention Center. She says it began with a hug.
When you hug somebody for too long and your comment is that you know what their bra cup size is, maybe that's definitely inappropriate. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that.
And as she walked away with a friend, Sattler says Westlake followed up with a text message.
Dean texted me and said, lift up your parka. And we looked at it, we were like, gross. And I put the phone back in my pocket and I just kept walking. That is exactly the kind of stuff that he would say all the time.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't. I absolutely don't remember that.
Do you not deny doing that?
What I do is I do not remember that, and if I said anything untoward or anything like that, it's me trying a sense of humor that I thought was okay, and it isn't okay. Not by any stretch of the imagination or actions like that okay, they're reprehensible.
Dean Westlake denies allegations he groped a legislative staffer back in March of this year. Olivia Garrett reported the alleged incident to House leadership, both in writing and more recently discussing Westlake's reputation at a Democratic Party meeting.
Last year, mostly Anchorage-based party leadership started campaigning for someone running in a rural House district, and they were told by folks who grew up in that area that said, this guy is bad news, you can't campaign for him. And now Dean Westlake is in public office, and he's harassed maybe 8 people who he has to work with, and there are probably more. I'm one of them.
If a young woman says, hey, he touched my butt, you would know if you did that. Did you?
I would assume so.
What do you mean you would assume so? Like either you did it or you didn't?
It just, okay, no. No, I didn't touch any butts.
But Westlake does admit that he now realizes some of the things he has said to women in the past were out of line.
On one hand, you're saying, times have changed and this behavior now is unacceptable. But what I'm saying is there are indications that you've been called out for this type of behavior throughout your life.
Okay.
Isn't that true?
Probably. I think every one of us, maybe, I don't know, is done things that we regret. Like I said in my letter, is just you don't realize how hurtful they could be, how inappropriate they could be, and I want to take this as my opportunity to learn.
The freshman lawmaker is now under fire from his own party and House leadership.
Depending on the facts of the case, serious allegations, he should be expelled.
And under investigation by the legislature after a series of allegations from at least 7 women who work at the Capitol.
Leadership did ask for his resignation. It's his decision ultimately on a resignation, but because of the pattern of behavior that was coming forward, we felt it was necessary to provide safety and to empower other people to come forward.
Today, Westlake explained to Channel 2 why he refuses to resign.
This is going to be the people that decide. And while I respect the party leadership, they're not the ones that cast their vote whether I got to sit down there in Juneau. It wasn't the Democratic Party that decided whether I get to sit in Juneau.
When asked if Westlake had ever been investigated for sexual harassment by any previous employers, today Westlake admitted he had.
Was I ever investigated for sexual harassment? I believe so, yes. Every institution I've ever worked for, I respect, and I'll leave it at that.
Earlier this week, Westlake released a statement commending the women who have come forward with concerns about his behavior. He acknowledges that being in public office means extra scrutiny.
The thing is, I absolutely respect them for doing this. There is not a one of them that I don't respect for doing this. They should be heard. And by the same token, if you will, is the accused should also be heard.
The women we spoke with said the discussion is long overdue.
Violated, completely violated. And this is exact, when you're an elected official, we expect more from you. Alaska has, the highest, rates of sexual abuse, the highest rates of child sexual abuse. And when you're an elected official, we expect that your behavior you'll always act the right way.
Channel 2 has also learned that Westlake was at one time a volunteer at the Kotzebue radio station KOTZ. I spoke with 2 former officials there who said he was banned from volunteering as a DJ after he was accused of making unwanted advances on a young woman. The station manager at the time, Rosie Hensley, confirms that account.
Westlake's spokesman, however, counters that Westlake quit volunteering to deal with a divorce at the same time.